What's up, gang? Welcome to Ruined Board. My name is Chris George, and today we have another episode of Crowdfunding Countdown, where we take a look at every single thing that's leaving Kickstarter this week. Absolutely everything. That's right, today we're looking at Shiki wrap, portable dishwashers, and a book called Motherhood is Big Enough. No, I'm just kidding. We're not looking at those. We're looking at board games. Ah, I just lost everybody. No, come back! Damn it. Anyway, if you're new to the show, I read through all the rule books so you don't have to, and try and distill the game for you as quickly as possible, making exactly one joke in the process of the video. No more! I'll tell you when it is so you know when to laugh. Don't worry. The reason being is most of these campaigns get a lot of buzz at the beginning of their life cycle, but not as much at the end of it. And a lot of other ones don't get any buzz at all. So I find this is a good way to see how they've performed, the ones that have unlocked tons of stretch goals, and the ones that are perhaps needing a little bit of a boost to get their funding underway. Because more board games out there is always a good thing, which is a statement I may regret by the end of this video. And also, unless of course you're Rallyman cars. I'm sure they're great. Sorry, Rallyman fans, I don't think that bit's going away. Anyway, let's get into it. So, right off the bat, we have a card game called Ryder, which is charming because the creator's kid's name is also Ryder. So automatically it scores a 5 on the wholesome scale for me. It's a card game for 2 to 8 players, and while they do have a rule book, it's really not the most clear. Basically, you're going to have 4 cards face down in front of you, and you're going to use those cards to attack the 4 face down cards of another player. These can be various types, such as riders or triggers, which are basically trap cards. You've activated my trap card! And there are other types too, like champions, which automatically win when they're attacked, and other things that let you redraw cards from the graveyard that other people have played. So there's a lot of cycle back and forth, but in essence, it's all about remembering all the different cards that are around the table and trying to attack the ones that you can beat. But you use a card to attack, you compare strength, and you see who wins. Whoever wins usually gets to keep the card as a bonus point, and whoever's the most points at the end of the game wins. Kind of reminds me a bit of Battlefish from the first crowdfunding countdown 4 weeks ago or whatever. It's hit its funding goal, which is great, and ends Wednesday at 10:19 a.m. Eastern Time. And as these light card games go, it's fine. It seems fine. I'm not particularly drawn to it, but I am happy for the creators that it is funded. There's also a cheeky little rule that if you want to pass your turn, you have to say exactly a script in the rule book that's like, "Lords and ladies, I, Chris of the something, 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 do declare something, 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 something." That's it. It's with all the somethings. It's not. And that kind of tells you the tone of the game, which is not necessarily what you might expect with the fantasy setting. So if that's interesting to you, check it out. Next up, hold on to your spatial learning hats because we've got Oros. 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 I'm sorry. It's going to be a long video if you're getting tired of that. This campaign has been doing incredibly well, which is a great indicator that there are a lot of people out there who are excited for this game. And I have to admit, even just the base video on their Kickstarter page got me pretty excited as well. If you remember that neat mechanic of pushing things off the board that I liked in the kids' game Ice Flows and Foes, this is that, but for grown-ups. And even cooler, the pieces never leave the board, but appear on the other side, constantly being rotated and switched around. This is achieved through placing your own worker on your own little demigod board, and those actions allow you to shift rows or shift a single tile, or build places where your workers can go and gather knowledge and pray, usually at the top of a mountain, and improve your powers and let you shift the world more effectively. You're going to erupt volcanoes to create new masses of land in the ocean. You're going to smash land together to make mountains. Just everything a world-shaping demigod might enjoy to do on a Saturday afternoon. What's also neat about this campaign is they have a huge emphasis on solo play, which I wouldn't have expected by looking at the mechanics. But they have 4 unique automa decks dedicated to each player color, which I think is completely excessive, but is also a great bonus to solo players. And even to having that automa occurring during a 2 to 3 player game, which they say you can have. I also love their approach to stretch goals. See, I remember where I was when I learned that stretch goals were made up and mostly decided before the campaign even began. It was a sad day for poor young Chris. But here they're calling them growth incentives. And they're acknowledging that, yeah, they're planning on adding a lot of these, but these are dependent on the size of the funding that they get. And sure, they might be able to throw some in at the end that weren't unlocked, but no promises. And I think that's a really nice way of approaching these sorts of things, in a transparent way that still encourages campaign excitement. Because a campaign should be fun and exciting, right before it crosses the line into FOMO-induced madness. All in all, this looks pretty cool. You have until Thursday at 12:30 a.m. to decide, aka Wednesday night. So don't miss it if you're interested. You might be able to hear the demigod's music coming from my neighbor downstairs. I will say, if you have a hard time visualizing things, like the shifting tiles, and you'd have to see it all moved before feeling comfortable enough to make your decision, this would be a hard pass, because if that spatial thing is not your cup of tea, you won't like this game. But otherwise, it's not a bad price point. They have a retail version and then a deluxe version, which has 2 mini expansions in it and a lot of wood that almost everyone has gone for. But for me personally, I think retail would be fine. Just get the base pledge if you think it's cool. Next up, we have Bantem West, which, similar to Oros, is killing its funding goal. They're both sitting about $250,000 right now. And they're both from first-time creators, which is awesome to see. This is kind of shaping up to be a decent week. I jinxed it. I jinxed it. And honestly, I had heard some good things about Bantem West just from various board game media, but what really made me want to consider it, I mean, I consider every game that I cover on these things, which means I consider every game on crowdfunding. Oh God, I've got a problem. Is that the creators of Townsfolk Tussle gave them a shout out on their latest update. And I'm really looking forward to Townsfolk Tussle. I think they're pure class in terms of how they've handled the shipping increases. Even though it's going to cost them basically all their profits, they're committed to putting their backers first, which is an incredible way to start a company. So when they give a shout out and say that a campaign is focused on taking care of their backers, I am absolutely going to take note. They had a 48-hour promo, but it's just a weird map, so I wouldn't be too upset about not getting in on it. Bantem West did. What? We're talking about Bantem West here. What? Why is that still up there? I'll see you soon. I will see you soon. I promise.
Me?
Oh, back again. So Bantem West is an open world sandbox game. Anytime a game describes itself as an open world sandbox, I shiver in both excitement and pure dread as I see my time slip away with fiddly mechanics and length of game. I see a world where I'm forced to play nothing but one game. And the anxiety of having too many large campaign games with these large, expansive worlds begins to pile up and engulf me into nothingness. And this video game promo at the beginning certainly doesn't help ease those fears. But fear not, although it is open world, it's not campaign. Players will compete to gain the most notoriety in town. So you can do this in a number of ways depending on the scenario you choose. They have 5 scenarios currently, but they say that they're committed to producing more scenarios down the road. But how many and when is anybody's guess. And they've got a really great rulebook, if a little heavy on the thematic language, but it's very readable. If you're looking to read it for yourself, it is the field guide rulebook and not the advanced tactics rulebook. Just call them rules and scenarios, Bantem West. But anyway, you use your grit to take actions on your turn. You start with 4 grit, and I'm assuming there might be some ways to get more grit tokens down the line. Maybe with a special ability, or maybe not. And this grit allows you to move around, fight people, sit and stare at the sunset, reflecting upon yourself. That's real. Build a cabin, real, true grit stuff. Some things that I find really neat is that the labor action can only be done in certain places, meaning you're laboring for resources and only producing them in certain spots. And the fact that I found this interesting and wanted to highlight this basic mechanic to any game that produces resources going all the way back to Catan just tells you how immersive this rule book feels. I thought, oh yeah, that's kind of unique and neat. That's how you make your money, but you'd have to woodwork here because there's trees there. Yeah, it's a basic mechanic, but it feels really grounded in the theme, which if you're looking for a Western game, well, this might be it. I was actually struck by how much this reminds me of The Witcher. But instead of going places and reading narrative story choices, it feels like you can go places and choose the action of the thing that you want to do in that place. It's $97 for the base game, so your standard $100 Kickstarter. Now, one thing I really disliked about the campaign are their stupid red and green and purple star stretch goals, which are so confusing. I still don't know what the purple star means. Maybe that you just backed it on Kickstarter and didn't get it in the pledge manager. Maybe it's an add-on. I don't know. But luckily, most of the stretch goals are included in that base pledge. The only thing that isn't included, I think, is the game trays, which, as of the time I'm recording this video, they haven't yet unlocked. But hopefully they do, because, God, I love game trays. Anyway, so if you're interested, this is Thursday at 9 a.m. This is another contender. And they're going with Panda Manufacturing, who apparently is focused on eco-friendly printing, getting eco-friendly inks and glues, which I always love to see and makes me a little bit more inclined to pay that massive price tag. Next up, we have another addition to the $250,000 club with cheese, and that's Divinus, another app-driven game from Lucky Duck, who brought you Chronicles of Crime and Destinies. But this time, it's a legacy game about laying tiles down. But let's be real. Both Destinies and Chronicles of Crime might as well be legacy games because you kind of only are going to play through them once. I'm pretty sure. Destinies I'm not so sure about. I haven't looked into that as much. But it seems like it's a one and done sort of deal because it's all about the different scenarios. So with Divinus, it's no different, except that you're competing to earn favor over the course of 12 scenarios, and whoever has the most at the end of these 12 scenarios, these 12 games, becomes a new god. Also the week of the demigod, it seems. I worry with this scoring mechanism, it'll kind of end up like Taskmaster. If you have a runaway leader early on, you already kind of know who's going to win. So the journey getting there better be entertaining. You just gotta hope you have someone like Mel Gedroych to keep your spirits up along the way. For all those Taskmaster fans out there. And honestly, the basic rulebook is a little tough to evaluate. Because at the beginning, you can roll dice to get tiles, or you can reset those dice and take them back. You'll be fulfilling quests along the way, and when someone completes a 4x4 map grid of their own sort of land, the game is over, and whoever has the most points wins. And that doesn't really sound that interesting to me. But I think if you're interested in a legacy game with an app, you're putting your faith more in Lucky Duck as a company than you are with this rough outline of a game. And it's true, Lucky Duck do run pretty great campaigns, in the sense that you do get an expansion for about the cost of your shipping. And what I mean by that is Destinies, for example, would have cost me about 60 bucks Canadian for the base pledge. And I can currently get it at my local game store for $45. But also, when you back Destinies, they threw in an additional $30 expansion. So for that minor uptick in price plus the shipping cost, you get about the same value as if you'd gotten it from your local store, probably didn't have to pay the tax, and you don't have to track down that expansion later on if you decide that you like the game. But you're paying for it in advance. So that being said, if you don't feel like you need the stretch goals, I wouldn't get Divinus now. In this case, they do seem really nice. They're basically a bunch of myths which are supposed to be used in the infinitely replayable eternal mode, to give you different scenarios and bosses to kind of fight in that mode. And so having that variance down the line might be great if you end up playing that mode. I hope it's as enjoyable as the campaign, and you don't just finish the campaign and go, yeah, I'm satisfied with the experience. I don't actually need those myths. The campaign itself, I feel like I got my money's worth. But they're also throwing in a recharge pack for free, which I think is great because you can replay it again, or give it off to a friend, or even sell it to someone. But I don't like encouraging purchasing something to just sell it down the line. But in the cases like Chronicles of Crimes, or really any other app-driven one-shot game, unless you're going to keep the components to use in future downloadable scenarios, once it's done, it's done. So even though Divinus has stressed that it's the case, I just don't believe them. Or I don't know if it will be as satisfying as the main game. Hey, it might be more satisfying, but I think with legacy games, often the satisfying experience is how the game grows and the story that is created over time. And the one-shots don't necessarily replicate that. A little bit on that Eternal mode, the reason I don't think it'll be replicated is if you look at their update number 7, which talks about the Eternal mode and also says, "Be careful, there are so many spoilers here." All it basically says, and these aren't spoilers, is that, yeah, you'll use all the stuff you unlocked in this mode, but you won't be scanning things. That's it. Seems like Lucky Duck has taken a page out of a Wiccan Realms book in the, "Oh, watch out for spoilers! Here's a picture of a card!" It just says, hey, you'll unlock some components and you'll use those components again, like any game. This sort of secrecy always kind of turns me off, but if you're interested, you have until Thursday at 11 a.m. to back. Moving on, it's time to get hyped with Hype Tag, which is almost at its goal, or it might be there by the time I post this video. I like the art, and the gameplay seems alright, but it doesn't seem $40 plus shipping alright. However, they do have a $13 Canadian print and play option, so that might be the one to go for. It's certainly not Synchronize's $3 option, so that makes me immediately jaded like one of the older kids on the playground. The premise is simple. You have to get hyped up to 10 playing tag, and then, you gotta rein it inside and calm your down so you can get back to class and study like the sweet little study boy you are. You'll do this by playing cards that boost your hype, but you can only use certain cards if you're at a certain hype level. So you have to hypely plan how hype you get so you can hypely get all that hype out of your system. Hype. It claims to be Magic the Gathering meets Uno. I'd say it looks a little bit more on the Uno side, but the art's cute, and hey, if you have a good printing system and you want to support it, then go for the print and play. Why not? That's also Thursday at 11 a.m. Next, we have an idea that looks really cool, but has stumbled a bit in its execution and certainly won't be funding. So I'm not going to talk about it for too long, and that is Trains of Terror, a solo horror adventure. But I want to talk about it because I think the concept is great. You're mailed a mini postcard every week for 12 weeks that ends at Halloween, and on that postcard is a little mini part of a story and a puzzle that you have to solve. That's a cool premise, but the puzzles seem like real budget D&D battles. And the introductory one doesn't yield much faith in me that the other ones are going to be interesting, since it's literally just move one character forward, roll 2 dice, and see who wins, which is a shame. But it just goes to show you that you can't always trust a campaign. You want to look at the mechanics behind the campaign and see if it's good. This one ends at the clever 11-11 as well. So many missed opportunities. Now moving on, we're throwing away that sweet $250,000 with Cheese Club and moving on to that sweet triple 100K burger with a solo card game that can also be played at 2 players called Spire's End Hildegard. And it's currently beating every campaign mentioned so far, which is shocking considering the quality we've seen. Over 5,000 backers have jumped on board, and maybe that's because of the art, because it does look incredible. This is the second game in the Spire's End world. The first one was kickstarted in November 2019, but this one has double the backers and has raised over quadruple the original. This is described as a choose-your-own-adventure book that's been ripped up and turned into a bunch of little cards. You'll choose a card, then pick the result at the bottom. The same thing will happen if you see someone from the distance that you can target using dice, and then there's another set of people who will target you back with dice. It's described as comfort food in a card game, and I honestly can't think of a better way to describe it than that. It looks really unique. I'm not sure if it's worth $50 Canadian, but you do get over 400 story cards, which is great. So that's Thursday at 11:58 a.m. If you're interested, there's gotta be something in the water about Thursday morning. So like I said, this is mostly a solo game, but they do have elements and cards that you can use to play a 2-player version, but it's emphasized on the campaign page that no, this is meant to be a solo version, and if you really want to cram 2 players in, sure, we give you that option, but keep in mind, meant for solo. Honestly, the campaign is so descriptive and clear that it makes me feel very positive towards the writing of the story and what potentials this game could hold. Next, we're moving ahead to Thursday night, where we have a scan and crawl dungeon crawler mobile game hybrid that clearly did not get the memo about Thursday morning being the it factor. And this is another app-driven game, but it really just looks like the app takes place of those giant narration booklets that come with games, where you have to look up entries based upon the room and the items that you're checking out. So that part actually seems really great, because why not let an app deal with the annoying, busy, fiddly work and give you more time to play the game? They also have a print and play for $10 US and a physical copy for $60 US. I gotta stop switching between currencies, I'm sorry. But reasonable prices, especially again if you want to print your own. Where this is struggling, and it's only just funded, is that they say they have 8 scenarios for this first printing, and that some are replayable one-shots and some form up a campaign. And that's not great marketing to me. I don't want 8 scenarios in this first printing if later on there might be more. And where it also loses me is that all of your fighting takes place on the app. So you go to the room, scan some stuff, and then watch on your phone as it automates the little people fighting the other monsters. And that might feel satisfying to you, and if so, check it out. But it feels too much like a mobile game with a couple physical components than an actual tabletop experience that I want. It kind of lessens that tactile nature and then makes me think, why am I spending $74 Canadian on this thing? But the print and play might be an option since the components seem almost inessential. Anyway, that's 11:30 at Thursday. Now, next up we have the most successful game this week, and it's not actually a game, it's an expansion. Architects of the West Kingdom, Works of Wonder. Now, I own Architects. I quite like Architects. You can see it over my shoulder right there. And I'm also definitely not backing this expansion, because judging by their previous Kickstarters, this will probably be available at retail. And it will probably be around the same price, and I won't have to pay for the shipping. Plus, I don't think that I really need the expansion. I like the base game enough as it is, and while the extra little board and the extra characters with starting abilities seem fun, I don't think I need it. But what's cool is that they emphasize right at the beginning that this is going to retail. And they say, you know what? If you don't want to back this campaign, don't you worry, you will be able to get it somewhere else. We don't want you to feel like you're missing out and like it's locked behind this exclusive campaign. And I think that is just such a class act. It makes me want to take back what I said and back it here so that they make more money on their product. It's just that I really don't think I need it to enhance my Architects experience. But that being said, if you're an Architect fanatic, Frank Lloyd Wright has got nothing on you. The expansion does seem pretty solid. And you could also get the collector's box with another expansion and all the other content and a great storage system if you really want to bling up and elevate Architects above your other games. One thing I will say about the base game of Architects, and all of Garpill's games to be honest, is that I absolutely love their box sizes. They are exactly what you need, no more, giving you a compact box filled with great game for an incredibly decent price. I think they produce great stuff, so if you're interested, you have until Friday at 12 a.m., which is Thursday night, so check it out. Now next up we have Thunder Rolls, which is not only the sound of my belly flop hitting a pool after a year of COVID and quarantine, but it's also a little racing game with these little cars. Oh God, no. Oh, it keeps coming back. But don't worry, in this one, it's different because you get these 8 miniature little cars with stickers, and they're plastic, and you can customize them. They're not metal, and if you wanted, you could buy another 8 little plastic cars for $18. Oh God, these ones aren't even metal. I think this has got to be some cruel Kickstarter joke. There can't be this many little card games out there.
Yes, there can.
Well, Maggie, for you, I make an exception, right? Get out of here. But for Thunder Rolls, I just want to move on. I don't know what sort of race car driver I hurt that makes me subject to this torment for all eternity, but here we are. Ugh. Now here's what they say about the game. Player interaction is the hallmark of this dice rolling, action selection, speed fest. Whether you're battling for priority position on the action spaces in the action phase, or weaving through traffic in the thunder phase at 180 miles per hour, creating havoc in your wake, fast and furious fun is guaranteed. Guaranteed. I think not. But how you play is you roll dice and you make sets of them and you put them on these action cards that are laid out, and whoever puts the most on that gets priority of that action. And then you can also play these thunder cards to give you additional movement. The first person to win the race wins. There are also a lot of specific special moves that you can do to weave in and out. So if you're like me and never remembered any of the special moves in Street Fighter, well, this day just got worse. Anyway, that's Friday at 10 p.m. It's time to move on. Gah. Next up we have Granada, The Last Stand of the Moors, 1482 to 1492. A game for 2 players in which they will decide the outcome of this decisive historical episode in less than 4 hours. Oh, good. I'm not sure we can say Moors anymore, but hey, if you ever wanted to play as the Christians versus the Muslims, well, you can spend $80 and play this asymmetrical war game, which is based around Ferdinand just ravaging Granada because he had superior numbers and forces and just murdered everyone who didn't align with his religion. There's actually 4 pages of history at the middle of the rule book, the back once you're done the rules before the component section, that details all the things that happened during this 10-year time period. So I suppose if you're a history buff, you might be interested. For me, it's another heavy war game that I would never get anybody to play it with me. So I really didn't read through this whole dense rule book because I don't want to read about Christians attacking Muslims for 50 pages. And from a gameplay perspective, it looks probably average. And I'm not sure you really want to take an $80 risk on average. It is worth noting that this is produced by Compass Games, and they've created 30 Kickstarters that have been successful based around this sort of war game genre. So I have faith that it'll be well made if you want to back it. Anyway, your decision for that is Saturday at 9:58. Now, if you miss Granada, don't worry. 2 minutes later, and 12 hours, you can watch as Pirates reaches its funding. Now, by Queen Games designer Stephen Dora, or Stephen Dora, who's probably the most well known for the game For Sale, if you've heard of it. But he's also known for a game called Buccaneer, or at least soon will be, because that's exactly what this game is. Just a re-theming of it. See, because this time it's a pirate theme, but last time it was a pirate theme. The benefit of this is that you can already see what it did before and make your decision from there. It's like a better version of Top Pop from last week. I don't know. You're stacking your pirates on top of other people's pirates, hoping that you have enough crew members to go and raid a ship and get lots of pirate booty. If you defeat the ship, you get the spoils and you have to divvy them out amongst your crew. But the amount that they received are determined by their abilities, which is disappointing to me because I was hoping it would be more like the system in the much beloved by me and short-lived reality series Pirate Master, where you have to choose exactly who gets what portion of the loot and hope that they don't mutiny on you. Anyway, you continue mutinying on each other, placing your discs on top of other people's discs until all the ships have been raided, all the treasure's been taken, and then you see who's got the most money. And then you're the best pirate, and you can run around the house saying, "I'm the best pirate." It's a house rule. It's not a bad idea for a little family game. I mean, Buccaneer is ranked around 3,000 on BGG. But if you're interested, you can pick up a bunch of other Queen games at the same time, which might make it worth it to you. So that's 10 p.m. Saturday. And next up, if I have to see another game where you just throw cards down willy-nilly to get points and steal points from each other and block people stealing points from you, well, I'll probably cover it here because somebody might like it. And apparently people are interested in Chao Recruit. And I can't decide if it's more offensive to me that it isn't a funny card game, because it might as well be. You're just trying to survive in the Singaporean army and be the best recruit. Well, it exists. And now you know that it does too. The gameplay is exactly like hundreds and thousands of card games that have made their way through Kickstarter. And I guess if you like the art here, you can buy it for 30 bucks. Or you could buy this and play many, many, many other, probably more exciting card games. Maybe I should do a card game video. Better than funny cards. That's 11:50 a.m. Sunday, and we're moving on. Now, next up, we have a game that's not funding right now, but it could be. I think it's at around 75, 76%. It's gonna be really touch and go. Might be a photo finish, but that's the deck builder Dust to Dust. And coming across this campaign is like a breath of fresh air. This is exactly the reason I do these sorts of videos where the focus is only time-based, not if you're funded, not how well you're doing, to find these sorts of games. Because it looks like a pretty decent, solid deck builder. The twist is that every turn you can dust a card from your hand, which helps make your deck more and more streamlined and making it feel powerful, and that excites me. It feels good to have that streamlined deck in a deck builder. The theme seems pretty decent too. It's a futuristic world where you have to search for relics to save your own society and learn from the past. And the game ends when a player gets their third relic and you count up the points. Nothing that's completely genre overthrowing, but simple, and sometimes simple is great. I like that the relics give you powers. There's also an element of focusing and attacking the other player, forcing them to dust, which can cause them to get rid of points in their hand or other important cards, which is a neat sort of thing. And then you also have an ability to defend. The art's nice. I like the theme. It's $50 US, but you do get a couple of playmats included with that, which I know people enjoy. They have until next Monday at 10 a.m. to make their goal, and their goal is to just break even. So I'm really pulling for them to make it, because from what I've seen, it looks cool. I mean, it all depends on how the cards chain together, right? And if they all feel satisfying and balanced. But if you like deck builders and want another one, I think it's worth checking out. Be advised, though, that shipping to the US is $15, shipping to Canada is $25, and then shipping to the rest of the world is something like $45. So if you're not in the US, it's probably too expensive for this sort of game. But if you are in the US, well, hey, it might be worth it. Next, we have a game called Crossing Fates, which describes itself as a card game unlike any other game you've played before. So big shoes there, Crossing Fates. See, I've played Cards Against Humanity. Have you heard about those funny cards? Unfortunately, this is not a funny card game, so I do not get to blow my air horn sound effect. So you're going to take turns playing cards next to each other to form different actions. So here's the little reference card to give you an example. It's like one of those Facebook quizzes where you find out what your superhero name is by taking the first and last initial. Gain shield. Gain table. Completely clear. I don't need to explain further. The puzzle actually seems decent because you can also stack cards on top of each other to create kind of like double actions, which seems like what you want to do, and you also get a bonus if your cards are from the same land or the same color. It's 31 bucks Canadian, which seems to be around standard for these types of card games, and coincidentally always feels about $10 too much for my taste. But if you're interested, that's Monday at 11 a.m. Now, next up, we have a game called Solutions, which is a game about fighting climate change, which is great. This is an important topic, and it's got all these stats and real-world research behind it, which is also great and helps keep that theme on track. However, my fear here is that it becomes too much about learning and less about play. It's still got to be fun. It should be fun first and sneak in that learning second. I've had my 6 years of school, and that was my 12 years. I had 16 years of school, and that was enough. I did 16, I swear. So this quote right here makes me think, oh no, it's absolutely not going to be a fun way to do so. So basically, you're going to put forward climate change solutions without looking at the back. And then you have to collectively rank them in terms of what's going to be the most effective to fight climate change. And then you flip them over and you see if you ranked them correctly. Sounds like a blast, doesn't it? Here's a climate solution for you. Don't spend the energy printing this dumb game and make it a web application instead. I'm just kidding. I honestly would have a pretty good time with this. I'm sure it's interesting, and I'm genuinely interested in finding out these sorts of solutions, and I think that process in breaking it down and talking about it as a group would, in fact, be fun. But is it a game that I would have in my collection? Absolutely not. You learn everything, and then you're done. And then what do you do with it? Throw it in a landfill. There's some climate change for you. That's Tuesday at 1 p.m. though, if you want to add it to yours. Now next up we have a chibi miniatures aesthetic with the game called Yokai Quest, where the art actually kind of reminds me a lot of Super Dungeon Explorer. What's fantastic, but what's odd about this campaign is that you can just pledge for a copy of the physical rulebook and scenario booklet. Why? I get it. It's a second printing and they've changed some rules. So that's $28 Canadian for those changing rules. And they don't offer you print and play files for the board game. No, just the most expensive rulebook you have ever seen. Gold encrusted, filled with caviar. A real premium rulebook. Oh, and you get a mini with that, $28 as well. Now, even better than that, you can buy the miniatures for $126. Just the miniatures. But in the breakdown, it says you also get the core box. So do you get the tokens? Do you get everything except the rulebook? Now, I know what you're thinking. Is there a way you could possibly get them both together? How innovative would that be? It's a really big ask, but they do give you the option of purchasing the rulebook and all the other components to the game. You're in luck for the low price of $176. That's their early bird pricing, so it might go up. But even that is more expensive than if you bought the rulebook and the miniatures together or in separate pledges. $19 more expensive. Get out of here, Yokai Quest. I must be wrong. You must not get the tokens and the board with the miniatures pledge, because it says only miniatures. But it also says core box. It's just horrible advertising. Honestly, there's so much comedy gold that can be pulled from this campaign, such as the quote in the rulebook, Yokai Quest does not use a clock. In Yokai Quest, turns are used to measure time. Thank you for the clarification, Yokai Quest. Anyway, you'll be running around playing cards, trying to cut your way through swaths of yokais, which I could only assume will be as difficult to get through as the campaign page itself. Oh yeah, and they also make you buy the 2 expansions to the game, and there's no way of getting it without them. What a train wreck. Finishing Tuesday at 2 p.m. Now, our penultimate game, don't worry, we're almost done. We're almost out of the woods this week. But of course, you know that. You can look down and see how much time is remaining. Me, on the other hand, I've been doing this for hours. And so we have Earthborne Rangers, which is already doing incredibly well and has a week to go. But this is one of the top funded projects of the week, and for the life of me, I do not understand why. I guess people are really excited for the promise of this narrative campaign game. I mean, we all love our campaign games. I do like the idea that you can craft and customize your character to what you want them to be and what background they are reflected. I think that's neat. You get the cards that you're able to do so. And the art is quite charming, but for me, the sketch, the outline of what they've given for what this game will be is not enough for me to consider backing it. Without a rulebook, it seems pretty weak. They don't even tell you the point of the game. They just say it's a narrative campaign game where you're gonna go off and you're gonna do some stuff and you're gonna explore some things and it's gonna be different. Get it? $80. What's the story? Why do you not give me even a hint of story? Honestly, this looks like an inferior Bantem West, and I don't know why it has more money raised. If someone's backing this over Bantem West, please let me know in the comments why. What is it that I've missed? Because clearly I've missed something. There are too many unknowns for this for my liking. Maybe new stuff will come up. I doubt it. Seems pretty out there. But if you're interested, that's 2:52 p.m. on Tuesday. This is one of my worst explanations. I know. I'm sorry. Probably useless. But the description is almost purposefully vague. You'll use your cards to take actions, and the world will respond to those actions. That's about all I'm getting from it anyway. Now, our final one is Lumeria, War of the Gods, which allows you to customize your own box. And dumb idiot me thought, oh, that's cool. Yeah, maybe they've got some different artwork and you get to choose which version you get. That's kind of a neat Kickstarter twist. No, It's a card game for 2 players where you'll use one faction to crush the other, and there are 10 factions total, but you can get the game with 2, 4, 6, or 10 factions of your choice, depending how much you want to spend, which I'm all right with. It's nice to give people the option of getting the bare minimum needed to experience the game. Spending $37 seems much more doable than $111. If I was to get this, and I really don't think I'm gonna, I know I'm not. It's a hard no. But I would go for the 4 factions, unless there are more that really grab you, but I feel like that's all you'd really need. If you're on the page, you can keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and finally they'll tell you a hint of how to play. They care more about the lore and showing off the factions and getting you thinking that, oh, I need to buy everything instead of just the smaller amount, than they really do about showing you the game, which isn't great. Or maybe it's the same amount that every other campaign does, and I'm just tired this week because we've reached our end. So you're going to be fighting over the board and trying to accomplish whatever scenario you decided upon beforehand. And yeah, if you have all the factions plus the different scenarios, if they feel different, I see that there could be a lot of room for replayability, which is great. However, the battle system is just roll a bunch of dice. The stronger your troops are, the more dice they roll, and you hit on anything 4 and above, which, like, doesn't seem that dynamic. They also have a big section on their Kickstarter that says prototype rulebook, with no rulebook to speak of. What a disappointing end to this week. If you're looking for a better head-to-head asymmetrical game, just go get Santorini. It's really solid, all the unique powers are fun, and you don't have to worry about missing out on a faction to play because all the rules are already in the box. But if you want to check out Lumeria further, that's 9 p.m. on Tuesday. And so that's it for this week. We end with a whimper, which I really wasn't expecting since Earthborne Rangers has raised $325,000 over that now. Yet neither of those last 2 really grabbed me at all. So every week I do a pick for me and a pick for you. And this week we actually have some choices, which is exciting. Overall, some really solid ones out there. Some which I expected and some which I didn't. So for me, for my pick, I almost want to say Dust to Dust, because I like deck builders a lot. I like highlighting games that haven't funded as well. So if you missed that, you just skipped to the end to see, the 2 picks, go back and check it out, because I think there's something there, and it's just waiting for you, the angel investor, to put it over the top. So for my official pick for me, I'm torn, but I'm gonna have to go with Oros. And honestly, this is kind of my second choice, because my first choice is what I'm going to save as the pick for you. But it's really, really close between those 2. And I think the movement system is neat. I love the worker placement element, upgrading your stats so you can do better things, creating land, the board art, the nice pieces. It really feels like the full package. I have a feeling that this is going to be a good game, and is also on the cheaper end, with a deluxe version being available but not required, which I also always love. And they reinvigorated my joy of stretch goals once more. So, Oros. I just think they did everything right, and it was a delight to read through and read about. Now for my pick for you, if you had all the money in the world and had to buy something this week, Oros is a great choice, but also I think Bantem West is also a great choice. Now take it with a grain of salt. It's pricey. It obviously isn't going to be the be-all and end-all of all games. But I was really impressed with the rules, and I think they're going to be able to capture the feeling of that simulation pretty well. And even if not, it still looks like running around the board doing westerny things will be fun. And I'll also say I was really against the hype for Bantem West. I thought, this looks dumb. It's going to be another open world game that's only pushed forward because of the things that you can do and not because it's actually fun. But I also think that it looks fun, and my tune has been thoroughly changed. So definitely one to check out as well. A townsfolk tussle shoutout seems to go a long way around these here parts. So that's it. That's all. We're done. Is there anything this week that you're backing or considering, or things that we should be excited for that will be coming up in subsequent weeks? Did I get things wrong and Earthborne Raiders is actually the best game of all time? Or is it Yokai Quest? Or is it Rallyman Cars? Let me know what you're excited for in the comments below, and if you found this useful, if you wouldn't mind, hit that like button on the way out, because that would be incredibly helpful to me. And hey, if you want to be more helpful, then share this video with friends and Facebook groups. I'm planning on doing a giveaway of Battlestar Galactica, which I think is an alright prize, when we hit 1,000 subs, which is getting so close, just to say thank you to everyone for your continued support, because I really, really do appreciate it, especially all of you who are still watching this and haven't skipped away as soon as I said, that's it, that's all. You're the real heroes. So anyway, if you want to make that giveaway happen sooner, invite your friends to subscribe, and then you'll have an increased chance of winning. The components are in shrink too. It's like brand new game. I found it on the secondhand market for a good price, and I want to pay that forward to you guys. And also because anyone who I'd play Battlestar with has a copy of Battlestar. Anyway, you're all awesome, except for you, you know who you are. My nemesis, watching this, plotting against me every moment of every day. I see you. But until next time, thank you for watching. My name is Chris George. I don't have a catchphrase, but always remember that Yokai Quest does not use a clock. Bye.